All right, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on when you're watching this. We're just going to pick up where we left off on the previous video. Smokescreen or political correctness. That the CIA intended to utilize the air report as a means of terminating the remote viewing program seems transparent. Dr. Ed May, former remote viewing program manager for Science Applications International Corporation, and that abbreviation in the declassified documents is SAIC. You'll see a lot of cover pages with that logo on it. SAIC states, in addition to questioning the validity of CIA AIR's conclusions, I find such serious problems with their evaluation methodology that I have become reluctantly convinced that their conclusions were set before their investigation began. One can legitimately ask, therefore, why the CIA, after ending official support in 1975, continued tasking the program for intelligence support until 1995, when it then orchestrated the program's demise. If the CIA considered the remote viewing program incapable of producing substantive results, why did it continue requesting remote viewing intelligence support for almost 24 years? Did the CIA terminate the remote viewing program because it feared potential ridicule by association, or did it stage a public execution as a means of taking the program underground? Both are legitimate questions. The first is understandable given perception of paranormal activities by many within American society, as well as the CIA's past experiences involving controversial research efforts. Arguably, the second question is more intriguing as it implies that the CIA recognized the value of remote viewing, yet intended to make it appear otherwise. By discrediting the program, was the CIA actually intending to continue using remote viewing, but under its own supervision and for its own purposes under a newly established and more tightly controlled program? Or was the CIA concerned that remote viewing could be used to access sensitive U.S. secrets by both U.S. and non-U.S. remote viewers, particularly if this ability was somehow to become publicly recognized and possibly regarded as intriguing or even stimulating by society at large? What becomes of intelligence services if or when they can no longer guarantee the security of their respective nations' sensitive secrets? Remote viewing could not be controlled, and the CIA knew it. Albeit speculative, these questions are but a few that deserve more in-depth treatment than was afforded the remote viewing program by the AIR report. So, if I were tasked with defending my country against this as well as studying it, what I would do is have one group doing it and then have another group organizing a way to stop it. And I wouldn't doubt that a bunch of tests, if not carried on for years just to make it look legitimate, were being done just to see if they could confuse it, fake it, and shut it off on people. Meaning they were looking to exploit it. And you have to remember and recognize, at least from a technological standpoint or even a weapons standpoint, whatever that weapon may be, you would never deploy something without a countermeasure to it. I doubt that there are any missiles or any sort of computer-guided systems that don't have fail-safes in them. I doubt that there aren't remote viewers who can be turned on and turned off, whatever that may be, by ionizing the atmosphere, which is a known weapon, by causing them physical and mental distress, which is a known weapon, which is by providing them stimulants, anything from alcohol to marijuana to pharmaceuticals, which is a known and documented weapon, down to just 24 hours of non-stop media confusing people about their day-to-day routines and having to give up all independent thought, and instead of tapping into the source of the human or humans, they tap into the source of the stress, the distress, right? So instead of tapping in the happiness of the collective, they're tapping into the artificial created world of the stress, of the nonstop media and the lies and the abuse and the disinformation campaigns and the psychological operations. So, and I mean, even before I get on to the next paragraph, consider there were recruitment programs and recruitment initiatives drawn up thereafter or during, even before the CIA began their research. The NSA was already involved in recruitment campaigns, quote unquote, having people already on staff who were fully capable and operational. So the commander could, he's not wrong in this paper from his perspective, but he may not have been aware of what the NSA was already doing prior to. So everybody likes to blame somebody, and we see in today's contemporary mediascape law enforcement on all levels being blamed for all kinds of stuff and distrust among them. And obviously we have reason. But what is really who is actually to blame? Is it the entire unit of people? Is it the entire company, so to speak? A phrase often used, the company, working for the company or working for the agency. I don't think so, because these programs were compartmentalized. So a lot of people were themselves, who may be patriots, who may be God-loving Americans, were tricked into terrorizing their own people. And on the other hand, we have people that made a conscious decision to do it. And there's no excuse, like what would happen, the commander asks here, what becomes of intelligence services if or when they can no longer guarantee the security of their respective nation's most sensitive secrets? Well, I think that's a simple question, or a simple answer to that question, and it might be posed as another question. And it's simple. Why are those secrets so sensitive, and why must we have those secrets? So this isn't the burden of the average person. This is the burden of continuing whatever they're doing, whoever they are, and then making that burden ours and telling us to carry that burden for our own benefit, while also simultaneously more or less torturing us on a day-to-day basis. So let's move on to remote viewing and asymmetric warfare. For the past several years, U.S. military and government agencies have been concerned with asymmetric warfare, which, in this author's view, constitutes an unconventional, innovative approach that targets an adversary's vulnerabilities across a range of modalities with the intention of achieving disproportionate results. Such concern and the manner in which it has been promulgated has made asymmetric warfare appear as something new with which the U.S. must now contend. However, its concept is as old as Sun Tzu and warfare itself. Historically, adversaries have sought to disrupt opponents' centers of gravity via a direct or indirect methods that exploit known or suspected vulnerabilities in order to achieve maximum results. What is arguably new, however, is the amorphous context within which asymmetrical warfare is now being considered. The U.S. anticipates that future adversaries, indirectly challenging vulnerable areas beyond traditional battlefield confines, may strike via known or as yet unrecognized means, ergo, the increased U.S. concern. Moreover, the U.S. and its allies' reliance on complex information systems has magnified their collective vulnerability to asymmetric warfare, since potential attack upon these systems could elicit disproportionate consequences when compared to the corresponding effort or risk required by an opponent. Furthermore, from an asymmetric perspective, a conflict's beginning and end may be imperceptible. In fact, the very definitions and conceptualizations of the terms peacetime, conflict, and war may already be obsolete. Remote viewing required the same deconstructing of established concepts in concert with abstract approaches to military problems in order to evolve and succeed, making it an interesting asymmetric model for current applications. An existing challenge is how to develop asymmetric responses or approaches to anticipated asymmetric threats within a symmetrical society and its established institutions. Clearly, a nation cannot expect its military and national security agencies to think and respond asymmetrically during hostilities if these institutions cannot demonstrate similar abilities during peacetime. I would question that, but I'm not going to. Remote viewers provide a glimpse of asymmetrical proficient warriors who are capable of and comfortable with abstract, agile thinking and performing. According to McMongle, a peculiar discovery resulting from operational experience was that certain targets enhanced remote viewers' performances. For example, McMongle's accuracy ranged 80 to 90% when tasked with nuclear targets. If a nuclear device were being smuggled into the United States, the ability to identify its exact or even approximate location could prove invaluable. Employing remote viewers to preclude or counter undesired events with nuclear characteristics represents an intriguing asymmetrical approach that could obviously be extended to additional attack modalities that leverage other remote viewers' aptitudes. It's talking about forecasting, clairvoyance, future talk, future thinking, forward thinking. A current mantra regarding asymmetrical warfare is that future military opponents will exploit vulnerable seams to avoid attacking where the U.S. is strongest. The U.S. continues to lead and excel technologically, particularly in producing the world's most advanced weaponry. Our technological superiority is often recognized strength and is precisely what our future adversaries will seek to avoid. Hence, what is the U.S. doing to prepare for the future conflicts beyond designing and producing more technological advanced weaponry systems? What vulnerable systems are we identifying and preparing to defend, or are we continuing to build only upon our recognized strengths? Will the U.S. rely solely on technological solutions to asymmetrical problems? To prevail, our future enemies will likely be compelled to outthink and outconceptualize us in imaginative and abstract ways. So I think I can stop there for now. The commander gave us a good talking point based on the ending of the previous video and some of the statements that I added the commentary on the end of that video. The idea here is how much material strength versus mental and spiritual. I'm paraphrasing, and I don't mean to undermine the commander's writing here, but metal, right? Bronze and brains. We've heard these terms before. And with brains, we just simply add in psychoenergetics, telekinesis, spirit, whatever needs to for most people to understand it. It can fit in that category for now. And again, let's just put some of this in perspective based on historical documentation as it relates to secret societies and religious contexts. We might reference this as ascension, right? This is someone who has ascended a little bit. They're a little bit above us in some capacity, either emotionally or mentally, much like an athlete who can run a mile in just minutes flat. That's physically ascending. There are many modalities of ascension. But put in historical context, most of these ascended masters were turned into Christic figures, many of them often murdered. Many probably most likely surviving earlier than that, before those alleged atrocities, leading us to sort of reflect a little bit on the older stories of greater societies and greater advanced civilizations that were often told people were just dumb slaves building pyramids, right? Dumb slaves just built the pyramids. That's what we're told. We have to look at the fact that how many people may be hunted or abused for using this stuff by their own family, their own friends. In all the research I've been doing, it's clear that there are definitely sides. And I wouldn't say good or bad, but I would say that some people are taught to look out for people like this and hunt them down and torment them. And other people are taught to ascend and to excel and to utilize their gifts. And in some cases, in some of my previous experiences with certain people, it was clear to me that one was hunting the other. And this wasn't sex drive or taking a job or trying to sabotage a specific part of or function of someone's job or mission. These were people who were literally hunting these other people, like as if wearing a badge of honor, both sides, that I am the counter to you, I am the anti-you, whatever we're defining you as, whether it be the Christic figure or the non-user, let's say. And it's clear that at least clear to me at this point with a lot of the research I've done, both of these people have been around, or all of these types of various peoples have been around, and that the arts or the modalities of ascension, as I just said, can occur with anything. I mean, you can become an ascended master with any type of knowledge. Today we might call them professionals or award them medals of distinction and give them awards and trophies and throw money at them and stuff. But they've only ascended one of the arts. To ascend all of the arts would typically put you in the position of the Christic-like figure, the anointed one, or the ascended master, so to speak. And I don't, for some of you that listen to these videos and do your own research and are actively working yourselves towards ascension in your own rights, in your own methods, I don't equate enlightenment to this, because anyone can become enlightened about anything. And we often are all enlightened at different times by different people. Enlightenment to me personally is not an end goal. It's a constant stair step. There's always another form of enlightenment, and that's, I think, for many people, becomes a challenge. It becomes arduous and difficult to understand and recognize, because the top, let's just go very metaphysical on this, and let's just say that the source exists, and the source is the consciousness of everything and everyone. It's just not human consciousness. It's animal consciousness, it's plant consciousness, it's biological consciousness, that whatever we're tapping into to remote view is only a result of the fact that there are other biological beings around. Let's say that that's true, just as my terrible description as far as it can go right now. And then let's say that many people will also say that nature is in itself an essence or a consciousness, and that we tap into nature, and that's where we're getting this gift from. Or we're just really utilizing what's already a part of us and tapping into something that's already there. Or a better phrase is just recognizing it, recognizing it, bringing it back into our memories. we see how nature treats man-made things when left alone, when unattended. We see the roots in the trees breaking sidewalks apart, upheaving people's driveways. We see the water flooding and corroding. We see metals and wood turning into coral through salt water and pressure. So we see, let's just say, nature is a greater power, or God, whatever you need to recognize in order for me to continue on with this in a conceptually relative way. Would it not be appropriate to say that if nature is already aware of this ability, it knows it because it's made up of it, that nature would have no choice but to make that stair step, that continuing enlightenment, perpetual? Because if nature didn't continually present a new challenge whereby other people were somehow agitating other people in such a way that it forced various components of society to ascend and excel and go further, that if nature didn't do that, one person might actually hit the pinnacle, and thereby nature loses its quality. Because if someone were to obtain, let's just say, total awareness, an omnipotent being, total ability to manifest X, Y, Z, do any number of gifts or talents, just reasonably and logically, nature would cease to be nature. It would then have to become a counterpole or a counter to this ascended person or ascended mindset or ascended heart, whatever it is, in order to survive. And another way would be that, from, say, a physics standpoint, that chaos isn't the opposite of order, but entropy actually is the opposite of order. So if someone were to obtain some sort of total consciousness or total awareness of anything, nature would have no choice but to either present another obstacle or challenge, or to cease being nature. And I wonder if that, on a deeper level, now that I've sort of said this out loud and put this into a recording, that that's what we're not looking at when we see some of these more esoteric doctrines of male and female, where you have the straight line representing male and the circle representing female, the space, the boundless space, the birthing space, and then the line often attributed to the phallic symbol, which could be true. And I think it is in many doctrines, but it's not the total encompassing truth. The line just being energy, or force, or magnitude, or persistence, or time. It's a quantitative, it's basically an ideogram or a logo of a qualitative thing, where the circle or the zero or the emptiness in bound in a complete circle is a quality, right? So you've got a quality and a quantitative. And I'm using those words specifically because I just don't want to. I think we have to broaden our lexicon a little bit. In some cases, just move away some of the terminology a little bit that most people are familiar with. But and I'm not necessarily trying to remove the male or female perspective from it, but I think that that's tied into the philosophy where the more people seek to control things, that somehow is put upon the male persona, and the idea of free-flowing thought, do whatever I want, is often put on the female persona, the seed maker and the seed bearer, the incubator, the force of the man, and a little bit of sexual philosophy and stuff like that's intermingled into my mind while I'm talking about this, but It's not sex related. It's really more or less about the process of reproduction. So if nature had to continually reproduce itself against a phenomena such as one individual or two individuals or 100 individuals who essentially become ability to shape nature, nature ceases to exist. So just maybe listen to this once or twice, that last little bit that I recorded here, but if that's the case, then there is no total pinnacle. There's just the pursuit. There's just the becoming, the existing, the continuing, the drive, the curiosity. And at the same time, let's bring it back down to a human societal level on a day-to-day basis for all of us. The people that are connected to that thread, to that type of lifestyle, either intentionally or just they feel that at a certain part in their life, whether it be through youth or the pursuit of a love interest or money or an invention or solving an equation, they're naturally going to exceed and excel and enlighten themselves in one specific thing, but also maybe completely alone in what they're doing because it would take everybody else months and years to catch up. And I think that's actually what happens, and we have to, if we're being humans with other humans, they're allowed to do that. Now, going back to my previous closing on the last video, the one before this one, everything can be used as a weapon. And that may very well be of what's happened in many ways, or that may very well be what the commander references here about recognizing strengths and then moving beyond metal, right? Mind or metal, so to speak, or mind or material. And but people are allowed to ascend and enlighten themselves. What they do with it thereafter is then becomes the sort of judgment of the Republic, the effect that will have, right? The end use. And we have these people now who do think tanks and future thinking and forecasting and all this other stuff, and it never really encompasses the individual's nature to ascend or excel in their own way. It wouldn't. You can't give me a society painted picture or a painted picture of society that you say will exist 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now without just making a lot of people do what you want, without forcing people to build it that way. Because most people at a certain point are going to self-ascend and self-transmutate themselves through the challenges of what you're presenting to them, whether or not you intend it or not. So if we're at a level now, hypothetically, where people can anticipate what that transformation will be for each individual, then we're ceasing to allow nature or God or spirit or soul to be a part of our lives. Alright, I'm going to close off here and wish everybody a good day.